Thank you for listening to the BJJBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJBrick Podcast. This week we have episode 293. Byron has an interview with the ADCC East Coast Trials Champion at 88 kilograms, Alec Baulding. It's going to be an awesome episode. Stay tuned for that. And as usual, I'm here with my partners in crime, Starsky and Hutch. How are you two guys doing today?
We're doing great.
Busting bad guys, man. Busting bad guys. How about you?
That's what I like to hear, Starsky. How are you, Hutch?
Doing good. I'm a little struggling here, but I think they remade the movie, and I'm aware of that one with like Owen Wilson. Is that true? Am I thinking of the right movie? But yeah. I'm not familiar with the old style Starsky and Hutch. I apologize, guys.
Joe
I feel
and I are only
super
familiar
young
with the old. Yeah, we're only familiar with the old style, so we don't know the new one.
Because we're old. That's.
Well, as Joe kindly pointed out last week, I'm older.
Yeah, you're like days and days older than I am.
Yeah, and thanks for posting that nice picture of me online there. On my birthday, I really appreciated that.
You're looking good, man.
Oh man, good times, and I didn't know you guys are so close in date of birth.
Yeah, 1 week apart. I can't wait for your birthday, Joe. I'm salivating right now, thinking about what I'm going to do.
Oh, Gary,
we're actually taking the grandkid to San Diego to the zoo for my birthday, so I won't be paying attention to the phone anyway.
That way, it has a chance to go full viral before Joe figures out and does any damage control.
That's even better.
But that will all be in the past, and that can, we talk about the quote of the week: "You can't plan the future by the past." Edmund Burke. And I think that's an interesting quote. At first look, I'm like, well, sometimes you can. We definitely wanted to learn from the past and use that knowledge and experience base that we have and grow from that. But also, the future it's untold. And so if you've had a rough past or a certain spot that was difficult, you don't need to fear that, like repeating the process over and over again. Look past it and to the future. I think sometimes we put hurdles in our own way, and a lot of that is dealing with things that come up from our past, and just let those go, and don't hold yourself back, because it was like if you did a tournament or a couple tournaments and they didn't go real well, like how much better would you do if you could just forget those and let those just be a thing of the past? That was the old blue belt. Now you're pro belt. Now you've got more experience. You've got more training. You're a totally different grappler. Don't worry about how you did in the past. Go out there and try to do your best. You're going to perform better than if you think, well, I've lost 3 times at this exact tournament, 3 years in a row. That's going to get in your head and not enable you to do your best. So I do think, there's definitely value in looking back and learning and getting lessons from those things, but also it's not wise to let that hold you back, or to even just totally plan your future based on the past. That's a mistake.
Byron, I like what you're saying about if you had a bad tournament or whatever, it doesn't mean the future's going to be like that. And I think it was Adam Wheeler that you had interviewed a couple times, and I'm not sure, so maybe I'm wrong here, but if it was him, I remember somebody saying they lost like every wrestling match, their first year wrestling or whatever. And if that was Adam, kind of look where, he became Olympian. So, don't let, the past, hold you back. Don't be scared of what's going to happen in the future just because something, wasn't positive, previously.
Yep, that's a great quote. I think Byron hit on a key element, though, and that's to be balanced. You have to you have to know what parts of the past you need to evaluate and learn from, and then know when to let them go. So.
Oh wait, I just reading the quote. You can plan the future by the past.
That's what mine. That's
Did I type it in wrong? Oh
yeah,
man,
is it supposed to be can?
I don't have any idea.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, wait, I'm doing this thing backwards.
I think I think it's a typo. Let me Google this thing real quick here as Gary talks about the life lesson.
Well, I think can is a lot.
Okay,
can.
You can never plan the future by the past.
Yeah, you left out never on ours. So I'm thinking learn from your mistakes. And
yeah, okay, perfect.
That's the correct quote from Edmund Burke. You can never plan the future by the past.
Yeah, and Byron's quote, mistyped quote, is you can plan the future by the past. So forget that one.
That's why I'm wearing bell bottoms here, dressed like the guys from Starsky and Hutch.
Byron, I can tell you, by not proofreading, your quotes, you will not get promoted. And speaking of promoted, that kind of brings us to a life lesson of the week.
Is that like you like your own alley-oop right there? You throw the ball up and then you slam it?
Well, when you have hops like me, Byron, it's, I slam dunk everything.
What I really like here is that we just inadvertently butchered that last section, and Gary's not even giving Byron a chance to re-record it. He's playing right off of it.
We're rolling with it. We don't gonna mess around with it.
This is a bloopers reel. Yeah. But hey, I'm tasked with the life lesson this week, and taking it to the business world. A lot of times you got your job, you've been in your same position for a couple years, and you're ready to move up, take some new responsibilities, and get promoted at your job. And back in the day, maybe you got promoted, because of who you knew, or something like that. But today you have to produce. You have to show value of why you're going to get a more responsible position, more responsibilities in your position, why the company is going to pay you more money. And, I always, people ask me, what's the best way to move up? And, work hard, do extra stuff, make yourself, indispensable, and, take on tasks, help out in every possible way. Get yourself out of your comfort zone. We talk about that all the time. Do stuff off hours, and, just work and work and work. And, people are going to see that, and they're going to see how hard you work, how much you want it. You're also going to gain so much new knowledge. You're going to know, you're going to venture into different realms of the business world, and just gain new skills. And, I think that, carries over majorly into jiu-jitsu. And, I'm not talking about getting promoted to your next belt. I think that'll just come, as you gain new skills. But, how do we get better at jiu-jitsu? How do we become more indispensable to our team? And, I just think it's working. I mean, working hard, working your butt off, helping everybody out in the gym. And, I want to give Byron props today. And sorry, Joe, I don't give you as many props because I see Byron every week. I'm hanging out with him, but Byron made himself indispensable to the gym this morning. We have a guy who a lot of people don't want to train with as much. He's kind of a bigger guy and kind of a rougher guy, and sometimes people will stay away from him if there's other people to roll with. And today was one of those days. But, Byron, took himself out of his comfort zone. Byron went over and not only rolled with him, but Byron kind of talked to him about, hey, look around. You are not getting a lot of people to roll with you. You are needing, or you need to, change your game around a little bit. You need to be a little bit rougher, or a little bit less rough. You're much bigger than everybody. Why don't you try starting off your back? And I thought that was pretty incredible. That I don't know if anybody else has ever really just went up and talked to this guy about that. But when I saw Byron doing it, I thought that was pretty impressive. But Byron's working hard. He's taking himself out of his comfort zone. He's, making the gym better by making this person better, which is going to have other people who are going to now train with this person. And as a whole, we're all just going to get better. So, work hard, help your teammates, study, go home and, log on to Grappler's Guide or log on to, watch some videos. And especially if you want to find out what instructionals to get, check out the BjjBrick YouTube channel. Byron has a ton of reviews on there. But, just by working hard, studying extra mat time, coming in early, staying late, helping out teammates, question and answers with your teammates, those are going to make you better, which in turn, you're probably going to get promoted to your next belt quicker.
Yeah, it sounds like the overall thing you're talking about is like dedication or drive. Yes. And it may seem like, well, I can't do jiu-jitsu and be dedicated to it and be dedicated to work and be dedicated to my family. But if you work 40 hours a week, work 40 hours a week. Like don't work 32 and then play around on Facebook for the other time that you're there, whatever. Like, show up, give your all. Same thing at jiu-jitsu. Show up, be there, pay attention to the techniques, give it all you have. If you can make it twice a week, if you can make it 3 times next week and once next week, as long as when you're there, you're there 100%. That's what's important. You're only one person. You can't do 80 hours of jiu-jitsu, 80 hours of work, and 80 hours of family. Like, it doesn't work. But when you have the opportunity, give it your all. And I think that even if you're not working extra and staying late and all these things, it will pay off. Nobody does this. It seems like it should be a big secret. Like, nobody tries all that hard at a lot of things sometimes. So just by giving something your all and being dedicated and a little bit of passion, you'll really stand out.
Yeah, Byron, you made a good point, because I guess the way, I was talking, it made it sound like you needed to train 100 hours a week. And, I'm not advocating that, but if you can train two days a week, show up a little bit early if you can, stay a couple minutes late if you can, help out teammates, or have teammates help you out. You're always going to have somebody who has more knowledge than you. But also, too, when you go on lunch break, if you really want to get better, watch some videos. If you're working, on side control escape, find some really good side control escape videos, or, stuff that talk about concepts and, just have it in your brain. Listen to jiu-jitsu podcasts. I mean, I hear there's some pretty good ones out there. Anything just to better your mind. I'm lucky that I work with 2 guys who, are big time jiu-jitsu people, and a lot of times we'll take lunch together, and or not even lunch, but just go out to each other's offices and just talk jiu-jitsu a little bit. And here I am talking about wanting to get promoted, and here I am saying how at work I talk about jiu-jitsu. But that's, I want to get promoted at jiu-jitsu there, you guys, not at my regular job. But yeah, I mean, I just like that, talking jiu-jitsu with people just keeps my mind in it. And I'll be walking, let's say I'm in the grocery store, I'm thinking about jiu-jitsu, just maybe I'd watch something, or, hey, if I did this differently, would I have a cleaner path to the leg to get the takedown? Stuff like that just pops into my head. So, there's always a little bit of time. I mean, an hour before, or 10 minutes before I go to bed, I can, watch a quick video or study my notes. I know a lot of people journal too, and really I'm not talking about much time at all, but, if you really do want to get better, just put in if you got some free time, find a little bit of free time. I don't care if it's 5 minutes, and, study your notes, journal, or watch some DVDs.
Hey, Gary, I got a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you're watching guys at work all the time. And there's always that guy that wants to hustle for 6 weeks before, bonuses are decided on, and wants to hustle for a few weeks when he hears about a promotion coming up. And how does that usually work out for those guys?
In my opinion, not very well.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And all these great things you're talking about studying jiu-jitsu, it's kind of the same thing. If you're just going to put in the extra work for a few weeks because you're going to do a tournament, or your school's having promotions in a couple months, and if you're sporadic with it, it's not going to be nearly as effective. It'll still be good, but it's not nearly as effective as just adopting that into your everyday life.
Great point, Joe. Very good point.
Yeah, that is a really good point, Joe. And if you're looking for more great points in your first year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, check out the audiobook, Your First Year of BJJ. That's where I will walk you through all the hurdles and setbacks you might kind of see in your first year, and I want to get you pointed and going in the right direction. It's about 2.5 hours long. It's basically like a podcast. It's an MP3 file, and get you set up, going the right way. And I wish I knew. To me, like, some of the knowledge in this is I wish I knew this stuff when I was just starting versus some of the techniques I had picked up, because it's just like some things in jiu-jitsu are difficult to understand, or, like, what's my first month going to look like? Or, what kind of a training schedule should I set? And it's not really a technique type of a question, but if you get these figured out early on, it's going to have you set up to being successful much further down the road. The book is $11.99. We'll put a link in the show notes. Check it out if you're interested in your first year, and the money will go and help support the podcast. So thank you guys very much. And this week, we're really excited about our interview with Alec. Amazing grappler and really a nice guy, and I really enjoyed talking with him, getting to know him over Skype there, and figured out that he's training with Jonathan Thomas in Sweden. He's been there for a while, and I feel like I missed an opportunity. I should have got a hold of him earlier, but finally bringing Alec to you guys. So here's Alec Baulding. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
I play spider guard against Peter Parker. Peter said that he felt like a fly caught in a spider web. I don't wear pajamas when I go to bed. Instead, every night I wear a different gi, except when I want to have no-gi dreams. I get 3 points every time that I open my iPhone. I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Alec Baulding to the BjjBrick Podcast. Alec, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. Just learned you're there training with one of our the past friends of the show, current friend, the past interviewees of the show, Jonathan Thomas. Alec, I'm excited to have you on the show here. Introduce us a little bit to who you are and what you're up to.
My name's Alec. I'm a black belt under Romero Jacare, the founder of Alliance. Been training for almost 15 years, and where I'm currently living in Sweden. I teach at Valhalla Jiu Jitsu along with John Thomas. What else? Won the trials, ADCC trials, and some other tournaments. But I think definitely ADCC has been my biggest one. And just teach and train, and I try to balance both. And my goal has always been to compete and always bring my best self as an instructor too. So yeah, that's me.
And how long have you been there with Jonathan Thomas?
It's been 2 years. I moved here in 2017 after the Worlds, directly right after the Worlds that year.
Was there a major reason for the move, or anything like that, or was it something you've always thought would be interesting, or was the driving force behind that?
There's a few factors. One was just my academy was it was one of the best schools in Atlanta, the Alliance school, and it just as with everything, there's always going to be a rise and kind of a downturn. And I think, a lot of the competitors just got older or moved away. So for me, it was kind of just time to test myself, get out of my comfort zone, and, travel some more. And so I just had the opportunity to come out here to Sweden and, experience a different culture, a different language, and really get to test my jiu-jitsu in a different environment. So couldn't pass up the challenge.
How would you describe Sweden to yourself, like right before you made that move or the first trip there? What would you say?
I didn't know what to expect. I know a lot of Americans, they think Switzerland and Sweden are the same country. I just knew it was in Europe. I'd never been to Europe before. And I don't know. I didn't really have a lot of expectations. So I was kind of just coming in blind. I just didn't know what to expect, really.
So what are the cultural differences that you've I think Jonathan mentioned it's been a year or so, but he mentioned like people they're not very outgoing. They kind of keep themselves, and he gets to like just be outgoing, and people look at him like, oh, he's just some, American, and that's what they do. And they kind of, I don't know, he kind of plays with people like that. Is that something that you've experienced as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think people were a lot more antisocial here. And, I never considered myself to be the most outgoing person, but like being here, like it definitely forces you to like, you just have to be like, just to survive, just interacting with students, just to be able to bring them out of their shell. So like organizing like, events where people can come hang out, or just meeting people for like lunches or just to grab coffee. I think for us, because, we don't have family out here, so we have to go, hey man, you want to hang out? Hey, you want to do this? So that's a little bit different than in America. Cause I know in America, if I want to hang out, super easy. You just, after training, you go, hey guys want to grab some food? And like 10 people will easily want to go hang out. But here I have to do that maybe like two months in advance, like schedule something. So yeah, that's one big difference. Definitely the language. Although most people speak English here, but I teach kids, so a lot of the kids don't speak English. So that's been a hurdle for me, like trying to learn a little bit of Swedish to communicate. And there's differences in like education and taxes and stuff like that, but I'm sure that's pretty boring to most people.
I do want to talk about like your jiu-jitsu, but this is interesting. Like, how do you teach kids a class when a lot of them don't speak English? Like, is it mostly just showing movements and like a lot of nonverbal communication?
Yeah, a lot of nonverbal communication, a lot of hand gestures, a lot of me just putting the kids where they need to be. I try to have some type of like assistant or something. So I'll teach the class in English. And, I'll try it with my little bit of Swedish thrown in there too. And then I'll have my assistant do it in Swedish for all the students. So I think a lot of the parents, they kind of like that duality. So the kids they're going to learn English anyway, eventually. Yeah. But they're getting it a little bit earlier in like a more like comforting environment. So I hope it's a good thing. I feel like it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's, especially with kids, but really everybody, you're on the mats training, you're learning more than just jiu-jitsu or grappling. You're picking up other things. It could be, different social things or a whole nother language if it's kids sometimes. But like, yeah, and I think parents like that, like discipline and that sort of thing. So that's going to be great for the parents to see that. Alec, I don't want to skip over anything. Tell us a little bit about your style of jiu-jitsu and maybe some of your favorite techniques.
My style, I think it's evolved a lot just over the years. One of my mentors and still mentors was Chris Moriarty. I don't know if you know who he is, Byron. But he was one of the top American guys back in like the 2000s, like 2007 to like 2008, 9. So I'll never forget. He was really great at the triangle, even before like Ryan Hall. So he had like a lot of triangle submission wins, and eventually he got to a point to where he was like he didn't want to use the triangle anymore because he was so good at it. So that always kind of stuck with me. So with that, like I always tried to like learn every technique, even like I'm a shorter guy, so like close guard, I always tried to like learn and even if I couldn't implement the moves, like I knew that maybe I would be able to help someone with the details at a certain point. So I think my style, I think I'm known for having like a spider guard game. And actually, I kind of didn't play spider guard for a while until I moved here. Then I, was training with John Thomas. So I just wanted to, again, kind of get out of my comfort zone and try to work a lot of the details that he teaches. And I feel pretty comfortable, again, back in the spider guard. I like passing. Passing's fun. I like doing knee cuts. That's something that has taken me, I'm kind of embarrassed to say like how many years it's taken, and I'm still working on it. So I like knee cuts, spider guard, taking the back. I like all the moves in jiu-jitsu. And doing more no-gi. I've been doing a little bit more leg locks just so I can get used to it for ADCC. But I just think jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu regardless, so you should learn everything.
Yeah. You talked about like your spider guard has made a lot of improvements with Jonathan there. And then you also mentioned that you're a little bit shorter. And I think Jonathan's a fairly tall guy. So how does that process go of like learning? And it could be for anybody. If your coach is like, really strong and you're kind of a skinny guy or whatever, like if somebody has different attributes and they're teaching something, how have you been able to take what Jonathan has showed you with spider guard and make it work with your body?
I think the way Jonathan shows things or techniques, it can apply to anyone or any body type. Of course, like being taller and flexible definitely helps. So for me, like I've always had instructors that were a little bit taller, so I always had to like kind of just manage, try to like adjust other games to my game. And I will say that's one thing my school in Atlanta was really good at. They always showed like every style, just about. They would always give you like a good mix of all the different styles. And so just coming up, I, had to learn how to play spider guard and whatever other guards the instructors would show. And I just do a lot of positional sparring. I think that's like the most tried method. Just, it doesn't matter what someone shows you. You have to go out there and practice and kind of figure it out on your own, just through practice, So I make everything work. Sometimes it takes a while for it to work. I know with the spider guard stuff, probably, I feel like it took me a good few months before I felt comfortable, like being able to instruct on the techniques. But for me, that helps, like learning how Jonathan, does spider guard. It helps me because if he's teaching a class and there's like a white belt that needs help, I kind of know what to do now, so I can help those guys too, or maybe a blue belt or something. So hopefully I think that answers the question, right?
Yeah. So Alec, you mentioned having a balance between being like an instructor and performing or training. How do you keep that? And how, I think that's a difficult thing for people to do, because a lot of people would just want to train all the time and go out there and compete and do their best, but a lot of times they're having to be an instructor, and they think that some people could use that to an advantage, and some people, teaching kids class doesn't help them as a competitor. So how are you able to use that balance to your advantage?
I think it's definitely not easy, especially now, like trying to train for like bigger tournaments. It's actually harder. So sometimes I will take a break from teaching. Like I think for ADCC, I want to do like a camp for maybe a month or two before. I think that it's just the way the industry is now, that a lot of instructors or a lot of competitors have to teach just to make a living. So for me, I've been teaching since 2006. I think I started teaching jiu-jitsu or helping teach jiu-jitsu. So it always kind of went hand in hand for me. It's just part of training, like helping other people. But I think I didn't see like any benefits immediately, like when I was teaching. And then I remember when I didn't teach, and I thought, hey man, when I start teaching, it's going to help me immediately. Like, man, I'm going to level up. And then that didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. So for me, I think I don't know. I think it didn't really help me until I started like really focusing on my techniques. So one thing I do even now to this day, I'll train with the kids in the kids class, and I'll practice my techniques with them. So I just use that as another training method, being able to train with little kids and like use enough techniques so that they don't get injured and I can move around and they can play around and beat me up a little bit too. So I think that helped me. But it took a long time to kind of balance that out. So I don't think it's easy.
Yeah. That's definitely a challenge, but it's also it's hard to make a living as a full-time competitor. People, you have to kind of dip into that realm of teaching in order to make it work, and there's definitely a balance there, and I think you found it. What was it like training for the trials, and then how are you going to use that and prepare for the ADCC?
So training for the trials, I'm just really fortunate to have like a really good no-gi crew here, and I have some guys. They do the trials for like the ADCC European tournaments. So just having like shared goals with those guys. I have like 2 other guys that compete in like the ADCC trials. So for me, I did a lot of wrestling, a lot of takedown training, and that's a whole story on itself. Like me learning how to wrestle, because I never wrestled in high school. I had to. I didn't teach myself how to wrestle, but I had to like just search out like different outlets to help myself get better at wrestling. So I focus a lot on my top game, and I focus a lot on just being able to transition my techniques from the gi to no gi. And I think that's like something you see it with all the tournaments, like all the really good gi guys, they can usually transition pretty well to no gi, but it doesn't really happen the reverse way. So I really try to like take what works in the gi and try to like make it work no gi. And that was it. I didn't do anything crazy before the ADCC trials last year. I just I went. So I'm in Sweden. I went to New Jersey maybe a week or 2 before, and then I just kind of trained a little bit, and just to stay sharp. And I just kept doing whatever I was doing before, like just sharpening my skill set. And then I just went out there, and I just happened to do really well and had a really good coaching. So I think it was just one of those things where like all the stars aligned for me. Like I had the right training partners, the right coach, and just the right conditioning to go out there and do well. Yeah,
that's awesome. We do see that people can do very well in the gi and then make that transition to no gi, and you don't see that as often, and maybe I don't know why, but it seems to be more difficult to go from a successful no gi career and put the belt on and put the gi on and do that.
Different animal. I think it's just the game is so slowed down and so intricate with like all the lapel stuff. So if you're not used to that, like if you don't know how to pass worm guard and someone puts you in worm guard, like you're not going to get out of there. It's just there's no way. So I think you have to really understand like all the intricacies of the gi and the lapel games, and just the strategies that people utilize with the gi on is different than no gi.
You mentioned like spider guard is now one of your more favorite things. You tend to play more of a top game without the gi on. What do you, if you are on the bottom in no gi, what are you looking for?
It really depends on how my opponents, what they're trying to do, but I'll try to use like an open guard no gi. It's hard to explain, but uses a lot of like lassos and like looking for De La Hiva and a lot of like leg kicks. It looks funny when you don't when you first see it, but like it makes sense. So I definitely look to like get underneath my opponents, maybe. So either like a De La Hiva, reverse De La Hiva game, or maybe a butterfly. game. I think those are like my go-tos. And I've been using a little bit more of a single leg sit-up guard, no-gi, but it's kind of risky. So I don't really teach that style too much to like the students. But it's so hard to work guard and no-gi, especially if you're not like a leg lock specialist. I think it's just for like ADCC or pretty much any no-gi tournaments. It's really hard to work that bottom game. I'll try my best not to play on bottom, but I'm comfortable on bottom. I think that's something that helps a lot. A lot of guys, they're good on top. They get put on their butt. Man, it's like their whole game like disappears. So I always make sure to work both top and bottom so I feel comfortable.
Yeah. You mentioned like the leg lock game. So how does one go from like, that's one area where training in the gi really doesn't necessarily prepare you for what's coming at you in the no gi. And how do you prepare for that as a competitor? You're on like a stage with the world's best, the world's best leg lockers are going to be there as well. Like,
yeah.
How do you train for that if that's not one of your already things that your specialty that you've worked a lot on?
I think the most important thing, like understanding like the leg lock game is that you do have to kind of try it out a little bit and just see like what exactly are the positions that are dangerous. What are the guys looking for? Like, when they invert, what are they looking for? When they're playing butterfly guard, what are they looking for? So I kind of took some time out to like just kind of experiment a little bit with the leg locks. And I know I'll never be like, as good as Gordon Ryan or Craig Jones, because that's kind of where they specialize in. But for me, just being able to understand the positions, just like with anything, understand the position, and to a point where I feel more comfortable or okay with. So that really helped me like kind of design my defense and just know where or know when I'm in danger and know when to really get out of there. For instance, if you're trying to pass and someone they get you in like a single leg X guard, most gi guys will kind of sit there a little bit and kind of take their time. But at no gi, I know that I have no time. I need to get out of there immediately before they start to reap. So again, that just learning how to play like the rudimentary leg lock game helped me in my defense. And that's the same thing we do for in the gi, especially here. We'll try to figure out what positions our competitors are really good at. Maybe they're great at 50-50, or maybe they have a good collar sleeve game. And so we'll try to break down like, okay, what are they doing? How are they doing it? Okay, this is how I'm going to kill it. So a lot of just preparation, I think. Preparation before you go out there and.
Yeah. Do you adjust your training to prepare you for the changes with the rules there's so many different tournaments, so many different things, but like clearly, the rules at IBJJF are different than ADCC, and like the point system is different. There's so much that's different. So are you, do you have like basically like matches in the gym where you have the different rule sets and work within that, or are you positionally sparring with these rule sets, or how do you make that adjustment?
It depends on who I'm training with. With like the more regular guys, I think we just use a standard ADCC rule set, pretty much. And but if I'm going with like a newer guy or something, I won't do like heel hooks, because that's not a good way to get students to stay. So I'll if say that there's like a question or something out after class or during like after the training, like I'll sit there with one of the guys and we'll kind of just talk about like the rule set, because I know if ADCC, well, pretty much every tournament, but specifically ADCC, there's always questions about what the rules are. And I'll never forget, like at the trials, like they did the rules meeting before the tournament, and man, the whole gymnasium, like went to the mats to like figure out what the rules were, and it was like 30 minutes of just pure questions. So I think that's the rule set. I do no-gi, but I will adjust it for my training partners. So I'm not going to go out there and reap and heel hook and do all this other stuff to like a new guy or, you know, someone that's trying no-gi for the first time.
A little bit ago, you remember I asked you about your, like, what kind of a guard you play without the gi, and your answer, you had some detail, but like you started by saying it depends on what the guy's doing, and like you adjust it based on what you're dealing with. And then similar answer to this, like it depends on who you're training with. So you're constantly changing things based on who you're with, whether it's a different competitor or whether it's a newer student or somebody who you're trying to push each other to the next level.
That's one thing we do here, because sometimes there's going to be a level gap. You know, if I might train with a blue belt. So in order to make that level, lessen that level gap, we'll put like, for instance, we'll put like, not limitations on me, but we'll make it so that the rules are more equal. For instance, if I'm doing like a session with like a lower belt, I can make it so that it's harder for me. Specifically, like I can make it harder for me in training so that the other guy can be able to work more, and I have to really fight. So I might put myself in a bad position. I think that's the best way to explain it. And I have to get out, and the other guy has to just sweep me, or you know, just do something. And I'll be in like the worst, most terrible position, like a worm guard or like a De La Hiva lace, and I got to get out of there. So I think that's just one way we use to like kind of enhance our training, because we don't always have like, you know, black belts full-time black belt competitors. So we have, in order to make do of what we have to kind of like change the training to get the most out of it.
Yeah, that's very smart, and I think that coaches around, all over the world could see that and make adjustments based on that, because it's no fun if you go do jiu-jitsu and you're by far the best person in the room, and it's like you also want to get a workout, you also want to get the good training in, and so if by just start on my back or start with mount, or I'm only going to try to sweep you with this one particular sweep and this is what it's going to look like, so you have a heads up. I don't know, there's different things you can make it more difficult for yourself to do things and give your teammates a little bit of an advantage, and you got to throw the ego out and work, because you know, if you start with guys on your back, some of them are going to choke you sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, that's why the position is very strong. You know, it's just sometimes your neck gets caught.
Yeah. That's one thing I used to do in Atlanta. They would put you in these like terrible positions, and like if you won, you just got to stay in longer. So like someone has your back, okay, you got out, okay, next guy takes your back. And so man, it would just I remember doing that training and my face would get so messed up, just scratched up and scraped off.
Yeah, and by winning, you just get another fresh guy who's. It sounds like eventually, basically, everybody will get caught by somebody who would a lot of times never catch them. But that's part of training, and that's part of being a good teammate as well.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing for your off the mat training? We can't all just spend endless hours on the mats and you know, at the gym. What are you doing cardio, strength-wise, to prepare for big matches?
So I've been pretty much preparing just my strength training. I go to the gym maybe 3 times a week, and I will do like, you know, just basic lifts. Usually like a deadlift. Depending on which week, I will do like a deadlift. Some type of press, maybe like a floor press or overhead press, and some squats, like a front squat or back squat. So I'll do that 3 times a week, and I'll alternate my exercises. And then this year I added striking, Muay Thai. So that's been a big challenge for me, because I'm in the beginners class in that program. So it's tough, you know, cardio. I think I'm pushing myself in that class harder than I do in the gi. just because it's a different sport, different martial art. So I've been doing my strength, my conditioning, and cardio that way. And that's been about it. I think I'm going to add some yoga eventually, but I don't really want to do too much. It's just there's doing too much, So I think definitely knowing when to rest is important as well.
So you mentioned that you're starting to do some striking stuff. Is that just for exercise, or are you wanting to expand and to do like MMA or do a striking competition?
I'm not sure. I think anything that will happen is going to be in the future. But I know, if I want to do something in the future, I need to start now. Like just being able to understand, like, I think with striking, like I'm starting to see like all the detail, not all the details, but I'm starting to like, every time I go into the class, like I'm getting a little bit better. I understand, I'm learning the lessons that I was kind of lacking in the last class. So I think, if I do want to do something in the future, it's good to start developing that knowledge base now. Just so, if I do want to do MMA, I'm going to go there prepared and not just get like killed and get brain damage. And, striking is it's an art form in itself. So I think I definitely see a lot of benefits in doing both.
It's easy sometimes to see like somebody who's wrestled a lot or done, I don't know, judo, and they come in and they do well in jiu-jitsu. Have you learned anything with the striking arts that you've been able to kind of make a change to the way you do jiu-jitsu or anything like that?
I think tempo. I think that's it's been two things: tempo and footwork. So in striking, you have to just to be able to do the moves. There's got to be times where you need to pivot, turn your foot, step. So for me, that's like the hardest thing. I'm like, man, when do I step here? So I bring like the jiu-jitsu mindset to the striking class. I'm like, do I turn my knee, 45 degrees, or do I keep it straight? Do I punch this way? My elbow, where should it be? So the footwork has been something that I've been kind of working on, and I think will help me in just movement skills in general, and then tempo. So I think I mentioned before, like I've been pushing myself harder in the striking, and I think it's just a different art. With striking, there's just that timing. If someone throws a kick, you block, and then that's your timing to go and counter. So you can't wait. Versus like in jiu-jitsu, you can kind of take your time. You can put the pressure on, on the guy. You can kind of cook the person. Or even when it's like a fast-paced movement, there's always going to be a time where you kind of need to slow down, or you can't force something. But I feel like in striking, it's like you kind of need to. You can't really wait. It's just you gotta go. Like you can't wait. You gotta go. So definitely tempo and footwork have been like the two biggest takeaways that I've gotten so far. But I'm sure there'll be more.
Yeah, and you say that like you're I don't know, pushing yourself or something like that with the cardio aspect of it. Is it this, like a lot of times we'll have like a guy that has done striking come in and do some jiu-jitsu, and they get exhausted just because it's so much different. Are you pushing the pace with your striking, or is it just because it's new to you, it's just harder for you to make that adjustment, and you're getting a good cardio workout because of it's foreign?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think definitely just like wasted movement and energy, just because I'm thinking and like, one big thing I hear all the time, like relax your shoulders, in jiu-jitsu, because we never extend our arms out very far. Something bad's going to happen. I'm reaching all over the place. But in striking, like you need to like really reach to maximize your power, I think so. Definitely just not knowing exactly how to move. I waste a lot of energy. Not having the right footwork, I waste a lot of energy. And also like the head of the Muay Thai program, he trains no-gi. And so whatever I do to him in no-gi, he gets back. He gets back in striking. So he'll hold the pads for me, and man, he'll wreck me. Like, you know, if someone's calling out the combinations, like you can't just like take your time. If he's like one, you gotta go boom boom, you know. So he like definitely turns the pace up on me. So yeah, man, I'm usually like dead after the striking.
So do you train like what's a week look like? Are you training jiu-jitsu every day or every other day, or striking in the same day that you train jiu-jitsu, or do you space those out? What's that look like?
So I typically will train anywhere from 2 to 3 times a day. And there are times where I think like this week I had to take a few morning classes off. And so in the morning, Monday through Thursday, that's when like the competitors are supposed to get their training in the morning. And so for about an hour, we'll do like positional sparring. And then I think Tuesday and Thursdays, I will do strength training for maybe another hour after the morning training. And then I have classes that I have to teach. But typically I will train Monday, Wednesday striking, beginner striking, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, no-gi. And then Saturday, I'll do another no-gi session. And then Sunday, I just teach like a kid's class. So I pretty much do something every day. But it's not always intense, usually. So definitely a lot of volume. I think that's something that I'm getting a little bit older, so I think I'm not always going intense, but I do a lot of volume. So I'm always kind of doing some level of training, even if it's not like super intense.
How intense are your positional sparring sessions? Are they like are you basically rolling from a position, or is there a lot of talking and like a lot of 50% energy and strength, or what do those look like?
It's usually some combination of like a little bit of talking through the position, and I mean, I try not to scale it up too much because it's in the morning. But before the tournaments, like before like Worlds or something, it will probably get a little bit more intense. But I think a lot of it's not just the intensity; it's just like the focus. I think that's kind of what drains me. Because, you know, if you're really intense, like focused on like position and trying to like understand it, it can really like, it's like studying like math or something. Like my brain's like, I did a lot. So I think what I'm looking for is not just intensity, but just progress. You know, you could be in the gym for like 30 minutes and like really make a lot of progress in a position. And you did awesome. Or you could sit there and spar, you know, and not take anything away from it. So I think that's the goal. Of course, like I want to move intensely, but I want to progress in understanding the position usually. So it will depend how hard we go. Like when I go with some of the brown belts or, you know, some black belts, it might get a little bit more heated versus like some of the lower belts. But regardless, I'm still trying to like make progress.
Yeah, having that goal of progress, I think, is something that's important to help you avoid injuries. You know, I don't know, if you spend, I don't know, let's just say 7 hours a week of intense sparring, you're more likely to get injured than if you spend 3. But you want to get your training in, you want to get your knowledge base up, and so I think that like that positional sparring method is a way that you could get all the knowledge, probably a lot more actually than just rolling, but and have a lower rate of injury. Would you agree that like that's a safer way to train?
Definitely. I think that kind of goes back to like taking the ego out of it. So if we do a positional sparring session where like say my opponent sweeps me and we reset, like, you know, it's okay if I lose because I'm just going to go back in and try again. So that definitely helps a lot, just being able to keep training. And I think it helps, like, if you do the positional sparring method, and then say, like, 2 weeks before, or maybe 3 weeks before, like, a major tournament, you can do, like, more intense. And then just to get your conditioning and just to get, like, the that last bit of just sharpness in your technique. I think that's it. Because I feel like a lot of jiu-jitsu people overtrain, and they're just, they're not really efficient with their time.
Yeah, I agree. I just interviewed another guy who's going to be ADCC, John Combs, and he was like, overtraining was one of his biggest problems he had to overcome to finally get to the next level and what he's able to perform, because he was just training too much and he wasn't actually gaining from his overtraining. And so just to dial that back and to just train a little smarter was a big step for him.
I mean, I still do like a lot of volume, but I can scale it down or up as I need to. But I definitely listen to my body a lot more than I used to. I used to just train really hard, like roll like 2 hours a day, and then I would just be so depleted. And then I would roll too hard, too close to the tournament, and then I just couldn't perform a lot of times. And it's just like you have to change something.
Yeah, but you want to still continue to get better and better, and just I think realizing that those two aren't the same. You can still get better and not train super crazy all the time. Yeah.
I think a lot of that's just nerves. People are so nervous that it's just like it's easier to train, They just keep training. And if you're on some supplements, you can keep doing that and not have any like side effects, really.
Yeah, depending on the supplements too. Some of them are, but that's a good point. Dealing with the nerves, people they're nervous, energy, go train harder. How do you deal with like nerves before a match? Like what are you doing before a match to either get yourself mentally focused or to get warmed up and to be able to perform the way you want to perform your first match?
I think, like with anything, it's like my preparation is like evolved. So I think for me, I just try to stay positive and fight whatever negative thoughts, because you're always going to have negative thoughts kind of popping up in your head. So I just try my best to stay positive as much as possible and just try not to think too much, because, I do all this training in advance. So hopefully, I should know what to do when I get out there. And my goal is just to, be prepared before I go to these tournaments. And then when I go compete, just kind of, I don't want to say relax, but like kind of don't bring any added stress to the tournament, because it's already stressful. And I know when I did the trials, I was very calm. Like I felt very calm, and I wasn't thinking too much or thinking about too much stuff. And I just remember focusing on my coach, like whatever my coach, my friend Jeff Cummings was my coach for this tournament. So I just listened to him, and I just didn't overthink anything and just trusted in myself. And that's taken so long. It's taken years to get to a point where I can okay, I know what to do, and just kind of go out there and just do it. And I know it seems like simple advice, but you got to go through some trials, to get to that point to where you trust in yourself and your technique. And I think for me, of course I want to win the tournaments, but I if I don't win, it's okay. It's more about was I able to do my best, or was I able to do something I was working, that I feel way happier when I do something. I hit a technique I've been working for months on, in the tournament. I feel way happier when I do that versus if I win. And I think, I still get nervous.
Yeah. Jonathan Thomas, when he was on here, he mentioned jiu-jitsu is basically a whole bunch of little games that we combine into one big game. A basic one would be, can I pass your butterfly guard? And, whether you submit or sweep me with your butterfly guard or whether I pass it, that's the game. And once that's over, that person, somebody won, somebody lost. And so, if you do lose, you don't need to think of it like person beat me or that person's way better at do like that game that we got involved with. Like I couldn't pass your spider guard. Okay, I now have a problem I need to know how to fix. So I need to start working on how to pass and deal with Alex's spider guard and what did he do, and then it gives you like a direction to focus on and move forward from versus, dude, Alex way better than me. I'm never going to be able to hang with the guy. It seems like a good way to deal with that is to approach it from, there are parts of people's games that are going to be better than mine, and maybe some parts of my game that will be better than somebody else's. Can I get the match that part of the game and make it work out for me? And just kind of breaking down jiu-jitsu, which is very big and very complicated, into a whole bunch of little mini games to where we could, that's where your positional sparring comes in, I think.
I think that's so that's one level of it. I think like the next level is just like, so okay, like how to pass these certain positions, and at a certain point you just kind of need to like not think about the positions, because I remember when I first started doing like a lot of positional sparring, I would just get so like hyper focused. I need to do this to beat this position. But at a certain point, you just need to not think. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but like you got to do all the preparation beforehand, and then for the tournament, just don't really think about. Like you should already have that in your muscle memory, like what to do, how to beat this position. But you're always going to run against just different situations that you're not prepared for. Like one kid I fight all the time is Tommy Langiker. And he has a body type that no one else has. He has like some type of disorder, I believe, in his hips. And man, he's so flexible. So like, it's kind of like I prepare for this position, but like no one else has this thing that this kid can do. He's just hyper flexible in his hips. So at a certain point, it's just like I have to just take all my knowledge that I have and just I have to like not wipe the whole slate clean, but I have to like kind of like it's like I have to just use everything I have to make a new approach, a new like solution kind of on the spot. So it's like I think the positional sparring will get you to a certain point, and then for the next point it's just like it's kind of hard. I can't really explain like what you need to do to get to that, but it feels like one of those Bruce Lee things where he's like, there is no opponent, I don't know if you've seen like some of his movies before.
Yeah. Well, you talked about like not overthinking things, and that's like that's entering into like a state of flow where anybody good at any sport isn't over analyzing every particular movement. A lot of it's on autopilot, and that's really that. I think that comes from your positional sparring. That comes from the hours on the mat. Like so that like 95% of what you're doing is autopilot, and then the problem that's presented in front of you that may be a little unique, you could think about that without having to worry about keeping your balance and trying to break the grip on your collar. Like that's automatic. But you're able to use your energy and your thoughts or whatever to deal with new problems. Like a guy with weird hips or I don't. Yeah, that sounds like that would be a very tough matchup.
I mean, he's really good. He's won. He got second place at Worlds last year, so he's a really good kid. He's in Norway, so he's pretty close to me. So I fought him a few times last year. But I don't know. It's like, if you look at the top guys, like they can't explain to you why they win, like Marcelo or Lucas Lepri. Like, I mean, you could train with them and do everything they do, but like, you're just not them, I think everyone has to find their own approach to getting to that level, though. So I'm still working on it. So you're gonna have to interview me after I win some major stuff.
I think you have won some major stuff. So. But yeah, you have big goals, and that's awesome to see from a competitor like you.
Yeah, man, I'm almost 30, and like I haven't even achieved half of what I want to. So I'm gonna keep going and just keep testing myself and just keep pushing myself, because right now I see my biggest competitor is like myself. I want to be stronger than I was before. I want to have sharper technique. than I did previously. So I'm always looking to like just improve myself a little bit more, every time I compete.
Yeah, that's a great goal and great like aspiration to be a little bit better than you were last time, because basically when you step on the mats, you can't control the other person. If it's a bad matchup, or if like it's just not your day, like, but you can control you getting better every day a little bit, or every tournament a little bit better, and that's a goal that is definitely reachable, and a great goal too.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I lost to that kid I was talking about, and man, I was like, I was a little sad, but I remember like I was kind of happy about. So I think I did one move. I was like, man, I hit that move. So I think that's the only way you can keep training to like this for this long and to this level, like, because you're going to lose. Like, there's so many good guys out there, especially like my weight classes, like middleweight, middle heavy. It's going to happen at one point or another. So you just need to just keep bettering yourself,
So Alec, let's just say you have a student who goes out there, competes, and loses, and they're taking it pretty hard. What do you tell them, like, to help get them past that loss?
It depends on the student. Sometimes the students will take it really hard, and I know I've been in that situation too. And so just depending on how they're taking it, sometimes I'll just give them some space. Other times we'll try to just give them some just constructive criticism. But I always like, just tell them I'm proud of them, because when you compete, there's so much emotion behind it, especially like it's different for competitors competing versus like, hobbyists. So I always just tell them I'm proud of them, no matter what. And then, hey, we can work on whatever later, One thing I try to do with the students is like I try to compete in the same tournaments as them. And it's not always easy, but like just having that shared experience, like I think I don't want to say they respect me more for it, but like I think they were able to connect a little bit because they know, hey man, I'm out there with you, buddy.
Yeah, that's like a bonding thing is something you went through together.
Yeah. Versus
something that you did from the sidelines with them. That makes sense.
Oh, you fucked up.
Man, I've had a really good time getting to know you here today. How can somebody connect with you and follow you, keep up with what you're doing?
The best way is just to follow me on social media. I have Instagram. I post on Facebook. I've been posting on Reddit, so if they want to, they want to talk to me, they can hit me up on Reddit too. Snapchat. Just my name, Alec Baulding, on most things. So I think that's the best way to follow me. And I try to post, pretty interesting content that I think, everything from like techniques to like just little funny jiu-jitsu things. So I posted something funny where like I was like the secret to like growing your jiu-jitsu following, your social media, and it was just like, oh, you just need cool hair. That's like the only thing you need. So I just try to keep it fun and try to keep it educational, try to bring value. So Instagram, Facebook, the usual suspects, they can follow me there. I like to post stories too, so if they want to see like my training and stuff, you'll even see John Thomas on there every now and again.
With the gi on, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think they tricked him into doing a no-gi seminar one time, and everybody was like, "What in the world? What happened?" Like he just showed up there, and then they were like, "Okay, we're going to do no-gi." And this must have been like in Turkey or somewhere. Like he had no idea.
That's funny.
But I saw John do a heel hook one time, so he knows how to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I say, if you are good at the gi, you typically can take it off and do pretty well with that also. But he's definitely amazing jiu-jitsu competitor as well, and that's cool. You guys are working together there in Sweden. Yeah,
I'm trying to go back to America in April, so to go visit. So That's also like one of my big goals this year, because I haven't been home in 2 years. So
wow, are you looking to like teach any seminars while you're home and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's my birthday too, so I'm gonna teach and kind of hang out with my friends and stuff. So I'm definitely gonna try to do some privates and seminars while I'm there.
Awesome. Maybe a good opportunity. If somebody wants to train with you, you'll be back in April.
Yeah, definitely. They can learn the Swedish secrets.
Oh, that's got a good ring to it. That's fun. Any final thoughts or things you want to say to the audience?
Pretty much just want to thank you, Byron, for having me on here. I think, just being a competitor, it's not being like a super well-known competitor. It's like, man, it's a grind. Guys like me and John Thomas, like a lot of the stuff we did was before like Flow Grappling was around. So it's like we had to start over from scratch, like building following. So I just appreciate you just putting me on some spotlight here, and I just wish you the best.
Alec, thank you for the interview. You did a great job and really enjoyed learning from you, and we're excited to see you compete at ADCC coming up, and congratulations on your East Coast Trials victory at the 88 kilogram weight class, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching him. He's one of the guys that can compete very well in the gi and no gi, and that's an impressive feat, because they are they're very similar, but they are two different sports, and it's I'm always impressed by that. Usually you have guys that really excel at one or the other, but Alec is able to do both, and man, he's a fun person to watch compete. If you could find him on YouTube, or if you have Flow Grappling, hey, and he's got a lot of stuff on YouTube as well. Google him or YouTube him, I guess. His channel will pop right up. He's got a lot of cool content, and he's doing a lot of teaching there. So thank you, Alec, for all that stuff.
So if you're ever in Sweden, go ahead and hit him up, and I'm sure he'd be down to train with you. If you can't make it to Sweden, consider a trip to Wichita. You can train with Gary and Byron instead. And if you're in the Houston area, hit us up, and I'm close to there, and I'd love to get together and train with you.
Okay, Joe, let me think about this. Do I want to go to Sweden, or do I want to go to Wichita? I think I'll take Sweden.
Well, you can't always get what you want, though, Gary.
Isn't that a song? Maybe the Rolling Stones?
Like
Yeah.
But, you can't always get what you want, but you can't fix something if you don't know it's broken either.
Good point. There's another alley-oop there, right there.
No one's going to take it?
And you missed it. Oh, I thought you were taking your own alley-oop.
I'm not setting somebody up.
We were talking about ooping to ourselves, right?
That's what you do, Gary. Yeah. We have an article this week by one of our Patreon supporters, Craig Harmer, the Online Dojo. And Byron, we were talking about the alley-oop to himself. The title of this article is, "Why Didn't You Fix It? I Didn't Know It Was Broken." And you think about if you're an instructor at the gym, or you're, basically anything in life. A lot of times people will not speak up. Let's say your kids are going to Byron's Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and, maybe they don't think Byron's doing something right, but they don't talk to Byron. They don't tell him. And, Byron would like to know what's wrong, and so that he can make his school better. So, that's kind of the what this article is about. If you do see something that you think might be better, and I mean, it may not be worth, you may not, or how do I say it? The final change is totally up to the instructor, or the owner of the academy, and what you want for your kid may not be what's best for the school. So it may not be the change may not be made, but definitely speak up to your instructor. Let your instructor know if you think something's wrong, or if you think something could be done better. Because as Craig says here, the first part of fixing the problem is knowing there's a problem. If he is unaware that there's an issue, he's not going to fix it. And the more we just let the problem fester, the bigger it becomes. And when it becomes
too big, it's just going to be terrible at that point. So, your instructor's definitely approachable. Talk to him, and him or her, and let them know. And that's definitely going to make a better school if you do let problems known. And your instructor wants to have the best school possible, and so constructive criticism is awesome.
Yeah, I could tell. I've never met Craig, but I could tell. I really like the style of teacher that he is. It's his goal is to make the best students that he can. He's not there to show how great he is at jiu-jitsu or any of those other make a bunch of money, whatever. Like, he wants the students to learn jiu-jitsu, and he's really exploring the different avenues of teaching. He has a whole bunch of different ways people learn, like, physical skills on here, and I think that's a neat concept that you don't think about. All the way from like talking about the technique to demonstrating the technique to having the students do the technique and having the students talk amongst themselves and discover the things about the technique. And like, there are so many different things that about teaching a physical skill that he hits on here. I think it's really valuable, and a lot of good information that it's not really intuitive to think about with teaching.
Yeah, if you're not an instructor and not looking at that in your near future, there's still value in this article. You can kind of reverse engineer a lot of this, look at it from the student's standpoint. I like the way he ends the article with some barriers to learning. And these are where, as a student, you can read through this list and see if any of them apply to you. Lack of attendance is the first one. And I don't know if you meant to put this in order of importance or not, but that's probably the biggest one that holds people back. It's easy to get busy, and your goal might be 10 times a month, and you get months where you get 6 or 7 classes in. So that's a big one. I like his third one here. He says confidence. I think he means overconfidence. And basically, if he says if you're the smartest guy in the room all the time, you're in the wrong room. If you're the best grappler in the room, you're not being challenged necessarily. And oftentimes people put themselves in a smaller room. They'll be in a class. They're not the best person in that class, but they only roll with people that are as good or not as good as them. And so that can also be a barrier to learning. But he ends the article with a list of about 5 or 6 barriers there, and they're worth a read.
Yeah.
I really love not asking questions. And I can tell you, when I first started, I was afraid to ask questions sometimes. I didn't want to look stupid, and thought that maybe the question wasn't the smartest question. But I guarantee you, there's more than one person. If you're thinking it, there's somebody else who's thinking that same question. And the one thing I like about jiu-jitsu is it seems like everybody who steps onto that mat, everybody respects that person, because we all know how hard it was when you start. We all know, the trials and tribulations that you're going to go through. And, I know people say this, but, no question is a dumb question. Ask it. It's going to help everybody in that room. I don't care if it's a very basic question. Let's say one of the resident black belts answers that question. It's going to help that black belt also, just explaining it, just their regular way of explaining it. You may not hit it right off the bat. They're going to have to explain it again and go back to maybe using some of Craig's ways to teach, to demonstrate and give an explanation of something. And, it's just going to make everybody in that room better. So do not be afraid to ask a question.
And part of that kind of falls on the instructor. Are people afraid to ask questions? Anytime you have a classroom setting where, the teacher goes, any questions? And then like a bunch of hands go up. The teacher has created that environment to where people, Gary asks a question, hey, is my arm supposed to be like this, or like which way's upside down? And hey, great question, Gary. That's a common thing. I should have addressed that earlier. Let's talk about that. Or like, Gary, did you not see I did it 4 times? Like, yeah. Those are 2 extremes, but answering that in one way promotes a lot more questions. Yeah.
I really like what you did there, Byron. I think that you could make an audiobook over that. But, when somebody asks a question, I just think right off the bat, the instructor or whoever should say, great question, so-and-so. And, just start it off with that. That will promote a lot of questions. I really do like the way you did that, Byron.
Yeah, or not just have like a generic great question, but just have a positive thank you. I think you're sitting in the wrong spot to see let's turn, and then your question will be answered from just that. The disaster questions are the kind of the smart alecky student who wants to show, hey, isn't it true that if you do this, this happens? And like, okay, yeah, you know a lot about jiu-jitsu or whatever, but like your question should be an honest question. You actually want to gain knowledge. You don't want to show the class how smart you are and that sort of thing. We've all seen those questions, or known that kid in school probably wasn't Gary, Joe, or I who would answer questions that were not really asked, or like just say something to make yourself look smart. I don't think we're all guilty of that.
Joe and I, most of the time, we weren't in class. We were in school suspension, so we didn't have a chance to ask a lot of questions.
Well, that might have been you, Gary. I was a good kid, man.
We're kind of considering doing a Q&A type of thing. Now we're talking about questions.
Man, there's another slam dunk.
But anyway, real quick, I'll put a link to the article, the onlinedojo.blog, and check it out. He's got a lot of great stuff on there. But we do have a question, and hopefully we'll have an answer for Jamie.
Okay, so the question is, and this is from one of our female listeners, what are your thoughts on women wearing only a sports bra under the gi? Does your gym or professor have rules on this? As men, does this make you uncomfortable rolling with women? And then she says, I'm not promoting this. She prefers to wear a rash guard under the gi, but it's been a topic of discussion around her gym, and she wanted to know what we thought about it. I've got some thoughts, but one of you guys want to take the first stab?
To be honest, I have no issues whatsoever. I just think of it as another person I'm rolling with. I don't care if you're wearing a suit of armor or what. I'll roll with anybody as long as they're not wearing a stinky gi, or because I don't want to get ringworm. But,
well,
to be honest.
To make this more fair for Gary, Gary's a no-gi guy, so he's not rolling with a lot of people without a gi. But would you...
But I've rolled numerous times in the gi.
Yeah.
Many, many, many times. And, I don't care if they're just wearing a sports bra underneath. That does not bother me.
Okay. I'm the same. I'm trying to think about the women I train with on a regular basis, and I think most of them wear rash guards. I don't notice. I think most of them enjoy different rash guards and having that style, or maybe it is more of a way to kind of be, make sure not more skin is shown than should be or whatever. But I don't know. It really doesn't bother me. I don't think about it. I may think that I might not pull out their lapel. If they're wearing a rash guard, game on. But if I notice that their rash guard is kind of riding up on them, or I can't think of anybody who I roll with regularly who wears sports bra. But if I probably wouldn't open up their lapel and start working for a lot of lapel stuff if they don't have a rash guard on. Same thing with like a real hairy dude, or like really any guy who doesn't have a shirt underneath. Like, I typically am not going to expose. This is weird, but it does change the way I roll a little bit. Not a ton, and it's nothing that bothers me or anything like that. If I don't know, I think it's probably just as good a move to have more people wear rash guards in general. They are more comfortable to wear underneath your gi, and it has a barrier from one skin to the other. So occasionally we do literally get rashes in jiu-jitsu, and this helps prevent that somewhat. And I'm all for wearing rash guards. I wouldn't turn somebody down because of what they were wearing to roll with them, but I may not. I don't know. Open up their gi and start working for a cool choke or a sweep that involves exposing their entire back or their stomach. Probably their gi will stay mostly tucked in unless they pull out themselves. But yeah, I don't know.
All right, here's my thoughts.
Good. Here we go. Here's somebody who's got more. Of a...
It's not a gender thing. Male or female, you got parts that move around and shift around and nobody else wants to touch them. They make undergarments specifically designed to prevent that. I don't want to roll with some dude wearing basketball shorts and boxers. That's not my first preference. And so I just think it's equal for the same, the men and the women. So a sports bra, I have no problem with. t-shirt or a tank top and a house bra that doesn't fit right, that's been a problem for me in the past. I've rolled with women, and I just don't feel like I can put my hand anywhere on the shoulders, rib cage area, because I don't know how to keep this PG and describe it, but you guys know what I'm saying. If you're wearing a sports bra, then
you don't want to get a handful of something an accident.
Exactly. Like you're reaching for the rib cage well below the breast area, but they move a little bit and things shift. And then, so I just feel like that whole part is off limits. And so that affects the way I roll. A sports bra and a rash guard is my first preference.
Yeah.
And
that's good,
sports
Joe.
bra second.
I think that's really
I stumbled
well said.
all over that.
Yeah, I think you did a good job in describing that. And the same example with a dude where it's going to be a new guy wearing basketball shorts and boxers. Like, I'm not going to roll with you, but I will change how the roll goes. Like,
yeah,
he won't be getting north south on me. He won't
exactly.
be like that's pretty simple. Same thing. If a female's new and she doesn't have all the proper equipment, maybe she is just wearing actually a t-shirt and it's kind of loose fitting. Like, I'm going to do my best to keep it as dignified as possible, including pausing as, hey, let's fix our clothes a little bit or whatever. And if it becomes a problem, like, into the rules, probably pretty quick anyway, and talk about different uniforms that we could wear. It's not a problem that people would have on purpose. If somebody's coming in there to look, if someone's coming in full makeup and like ready, like really pretty and I don't know, like here for a different reason, that's a different issue, because it is a room full of mostly men who are in shape and athletic and training hard, and there's a lot of close contact. If you get somebody who comes in that and sees it as an opportunity to meet some guys, that's a different issue. But I don't think you have to dress that way to meet the guys.
But do you think if somebody did come in, that people dress like that they still wouldn't roll with them? That if they just came in to meet guys? No,
I think we're in jiu-jitsu. I think you're just going to train with people who are there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But we're all looking
said,
for what are your motives? Do you want to get better at jiu-jitsu? Are you learning what this is, or are you here? Like, what are your motives? 99.9% of people's motives are to get jiu-jitsu or learn better jiu-jitsu, make some friends, have some fun, choke a few people, whatever. Like, good motives. But I don't know. It would be, we can't ignore the fact that some people are there for all different reasons, and just heads up on that. And that's, I would think most of the reasons that people would wear the wrong clothes is just they don't know. Like, hey,
good point.
You're a dude. You're grappling without sleeves on. It's like, I don't want your armpit in my face. Same thing with the boxer shorts. You're not going to get north south on me if you're wearing, Gary's little tiny running shorts.
You said I look good in those, Byron.
You do look good, but not from that angle. But man,
Gary, you talk about that girl that comes in and she's maybe looking for a date, and would you still roll with her? I don't have to make that decision, because any gym I've been going to and that happens, there's always a line of young guys waiting. So
yeah,
they can
guys. Nobody comes in looking for us.
Yeah,
that's really not a common thing. We're just trying to throw up all the different scenarios that might happen. But Jamie, that's a great question. We would have never thought of even like this topic, and interested in other thoughts on this, because we're not the most versed in this area, and it's just, I don't know. You have to be, if let's just say everyone wears rash guards, but you have a woman who comes in who is wearing a sports bra, and you feel it's inappropriate. It's partially up to you to set this culture. And so maybe just introducing the idea of how you love your rash guard, and talk really good about it. And then the next week, tell her where you got your rash guard. And then the next week, give her one as a gift. I don't know. But I think that we're not in control of our culture at our school. You are, even if you're a white belt, you're especially as a female, if you were there for 2 weeks and a new female comes in, they look at you as somebody who, they can look up to and kind of bond with. and that's a really important role that I think is often underlooked.
Hey, and guys, before we go on with this too much, I guess we were looking at this from a more general perspective, from our perspective. For a woman's perspective, Google or YouTube search Emily Kwok and look at some of her videos. And she's got a few YouTube videos where she's a black belt if you don't know, and she's got a couple videos where she talks about this from a woman's perspective and does a really great job with it. So take a minute and look that up. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Byron, and say we'll put a link in the show notes to it, and I'll find one for you.
Oh, thank you.
So, Joe, are you saying Emily has a couple of videos out there where she talks about rolling with a sports bra underneath? Is that what it?
No, she it's more of a general, what's the best way for a woman to approach jiu-jitsu, and she talks about some of these things about what you wear and picking the right training partners to train with. I mean, it's more in depth than this, but it touches on this topic. And awesome. For women who are just starting and maybe they're not comfortable, if you go to a gym that's, you're the only girl in class sometimes, some of the things she's put out would be a good resource for you. So I'll find a link and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, nothing like three guys trying to answer a question about women's equipment. Like, we're out of our element, but I do love the question. It's something that we haven't thought about or talked about. We've been talking about jiu-jitsu for years on this podcast, and this has never really hit the radar. So thank you, Jamie, and we appreciate you with the question. We appreciate your support on Patreon too, Jamie and Craig, two of our loyal Patreon supporters. And if you want to help support the podcast, there's a link in the show notes to Patreon, and you could pledge $1 per episode is the most typical pledge. I'll mail you out a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch and a sticker, and it's a fun way. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's not a way to support the easy way to support the podcast anyway. And we do have a private Facebook group where last week or so I asked a question. Hey, we're going to do a Q&A, looking for some Qs. And Jamie responded with this. So the best way to get in the private Facebook group is to be a Patreon supporter and then send me your Patreon or your Facebook profile. Send me a link to that at BjjBrick@gmail.com, because if your name is Joe Thomas and you're our new Patreon supporter, I can't find you on Facebook very easily. So the best is send me a link to your profile and I'll get you added into the private group. And then when something like this comes up, good to go. And, the question and answer is not just open to our Patreon supporters. If you have a question you want us to answer, a Q you want us to send it to BjjBrick@gmail.com. And hopefully we'll make this a regular segment if we get stuff that's like Jamie did here, is really thought-provoking and something we haven't really talked about. So great job, Jamie.
If it's real popular, we could ask for a slew and be sent in and do a topic episode on it.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, if we get overwhelmed and we have to answer so many, that's a great idea, Joe. So when do we do these topic episodes?
I do them when I get an email that says, it's a topic episode, guys, get ready.
Yeah, like at the end of the month, which is next week.
So maybe we should put out a questions for a topic episode.
We have a topic. Okay, here's the alley that nobody's land. Next week is a topic episode. Next week is a topic episode. We're going to cover the topic, am I getting any better? We've all had this feeling of, if you've done jiu-jitsu for a while, like, you go back, like, I feel like I'm worse than I was last time I came and trained, or last week, or last month. And we're going to talk about this feeling and talk about how to get better every time you show up to train. And I feel like I do. I feel like when I come in and train, I'm getting better. And I've had this for years now. And I do know I've hit some plateaus, but I do know that those were all avoidable. And we'll definitely talk about this. And I think next week we're going to have a great episode. Quickly, I want to mention that we do have social media stuff, Facebook, YouTube, and that sort of thing. Joe's been doing great on Facebook. If you guys haven't gone by and liked our Facebook page, you've missed out on some really cool stuff Joe's put up, including a little girl who likes to headlock little boys.
Only as an answer to marriage proposals, though, right?
A quick note about our app. I don't know so there are a few hundred people that listen to our podcast through the app. Not a ton. Most are using a different, like a native podcast player, or a podcasting app that will hold multiple podcasts, not just one. But there are definitely some people who have downloaded our app, the BjjBrick app, which you get in the App Store, and you download and manage it through there. We appreciate that. That's cool. That's what it's there for. But recently, I got this email saying that I need to have, two-factor authentication for my iTunes thing, and I need to use my iPad or iPhone to log on and do that. I don't have those things. I don't have an iPad, and my iPhone is like 8 years old. I tried getting that thing to turn on. I don't remember the password. So I don't know what the future of our iTunes app is, because I can't really manage it. So I'm thinking it will probably just kind of just keep going, but it won't be able to be updated, which I don't know why it would need to be. It won't be able to be changed. The feed will be updated. If you're listening to this now on your app that you've downloaded, the BjjBrick app, it should still work. But if for some reason it becomes like a glitch or a bug or something like that, I don't know if I can get in there and fix it. But every week you'll get the podcast on there. You'll be able to download it. All that stuff will work great. But the Android stuff, super easy. That's never been an issue. But iTunes is a bit of a hassle, and I'm definitely not that. Like, all my tech energy has gone into the podcasting stuff. That's hard enough. And the app stuff is kind of complicated, and I've got some help with that. But I don't know. You might consider just using the native iTunes app because if we just stopped podcasting and using the app, we probably didn't just stop podcasting. The app probably stopped working, and I don't know how we could fix it. So I don't know what else. I'm not trying to end on a downer, but if you're on our Facebook page, you'll see the stuff get posted when it does, and I just don't want it to be. I don't want to like disappear and think that we quit when we're still going along and the app isn't working. I don't know what will happen with the app. I think it'll work just fine, but there's a bit of a gray area, and I have no way to really contact everybody who's listening via the app. So don't want to leave you guys hanging. Like a high five, and I get, hey Gary, I put my hand up, and he just looks at me, leaves me hanging. I don't want to do that to you guys.
Man, that's Apple for you.
No, we have a lot of listeners on Apple on iPhones, and that's great. But from my end, it's kind of difficult as an app producer, not really a producer, as somebody who has an app that is being ran for me by a podcast thing. Man, it's been a bit tricky, and I just don't know if that will be able to maintain that. So I don't know, grow and learn and get better, and we'll keep podcasting and hoping the app continues to do its thing. So hopefully that's not a downer. Just want you guys to be aware of that. To end on a downer, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Hey, train hard, train smart, get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats.
And if you update your phone and we go away, we probably didn't actually go away.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.